So, episode, what, like, 6? Yeah, I really need to keep better track of what episode I'm on. Anyways, I wanted to talk about Webtoons in this one because, one, I just really like Webtoons, and it's one of my hyperfixations and special interests at the moment, and, this podcast is meant to be me talking about stuff I like and sharing stories. And two, I feel like there are a lot of good Webtoons out there that don't get as much attention as they deserve. Mind you, my podcast doesn't get much attention either, but maybe someone will see this and find themselves a new Webtoon. So, let's get the most obvious and most popular one out of the way, Eddsworld. I actually was a fan of Eddsworld before I knew what Eddsworld even was, fun fact, because back when I was 13, 14 maybe, I watched a lot of YouTube, and two videos that got recommended to me were the Sugar and Sandwich Eddsworld videos. The one where Ed gets smacked by cola cans, and the one where Ed really likes a sandwich, with music playing in the background. I really liked those videos, but didn't realize it was Eddsworld until looking back at it years later when I eventually stumbled upon Eddsworld when the end part 1 was recommended to me. I don't like Eddsworld as much as I used to, although I still do quite like it. I like the older episodes more than the newer ones. I don't know. But we all know the webtoon Eddsworld by now, so I won't go too into detail on it. Moving on, I'd like to talk about one of my favorite webtoons right up there with a few others, Roommates by FlowJoe. I also enjoyed No Signal before it ended after only 7 episodes, and I'm just a FlowJoe fan in general, but Roommates! It follows 4 pals, Joseph, Coy, Nathan, and Dan, aka my favorite, as well as Joseph's cat, Fluffy, trying to live amongst each other as roommates while living next to their evil landlord, Lance. All while crazy things happen. Oh, and, I may or may not have started to collect pencils more, thanks to Dan, who is way too into pencils in the webtoon. But you can't really prove that unless you go back and watch the whole episode I had dedicated to pencils. So, I already explained how I found out about roommates in my Q&A video, as well as an old storytime video explaining how I got into animating, so I won't go over that here. But Roommates is really well animated in my opinion, and even has loads more animators on the team since when the show first started. Joseph and his friend Gerardo even do live segments where they show themselves animating as well as showing off fan art. Well, it used to be Joe and Gerardo, but it's just Joe who animates on the stream now. Although Gerardo is still there, talking, just not animating. Moving on from Roommates, and all of the people mentioned here, by the way, will be credited in the description, so feel free to check that out. Anyway, let's move on to yet another one of my favorites. Although Roommates is my all-time favorite, this one comes in at a close second. Movie Pals! Just kidding, Filmbudds. While scrolling through Twitter one day, and no, I'm not calling it X, shut up. It's Twitter, and it always will be. It recommended that I follow Filmbudds. The name looked familiar to me, and so I looked it up on YouTube. Surely enough, it looked familiar to me because it was one of the recommended videos YouTube had recommended me once, probably, after watching Roommates or Eddsworld or something. So, I started watching the episodes and became hooked. The show follows Noel, Dorothy, aka my favorite, Tony, and Chris. Let me just start by saying that I absolutely love the style in this. The lineless style looks cool as hell, dude. I usually don't have all that much money to spend on art, because, animators don't make money and all, but I'd friggin' pay anything. I'd pay whatever to have Dan, Jason, and Mark drawn in that style. It's cool. Speaking on Dan and Jason, the next webtoon... No, I'm just kidding. My webtoon is not on this list. But, yeah. The adventures they go on is crazy. The Blue Moon Curse thing is cool, and, you can just see it slowly become more and more present throughout, the episodes. And once again, the art style. It's definitely worth checking out. Noel also has a new webtoon that, albeit only has an introduction so far as of recording this, Astro Cat. It's also pretty cool, and I really like the style of that one as well. I've even done like a fan animation of it, because I love the style, man. You've got a cool style, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So, speaking of Gerardo earlier, did you know that he also has a webtoon? And I gotta say, I know I already complimented the Filmbud style, but Gerardo's art style is just so cool. I like the way it looks, and even one of my friends based his art style off of a combination of Gerardo's combined with Joseph's. The Ponders follows Jerry Ponder, hence, the name Ponders, and aka my favorite, as well as a few others, including a talking rabbit. A dog? Rabbit? One of the characters, Lendy, mentions that she has a talking dog for Pete's sake, but it does kind of look like a rabbit with, the long ears and stubby tail and all. Also, unplanned and unrelated, but I'm currently dressed in a bunny onesie right now because I was too lazy to change this morning. Anyways, the show has had a fairly recent episode, or, at least it came out, I think, a few months or so ago, and it has been going on for a while now, too. Like, look at the art style of the newest episode, and compare that to a much older one. That's just cool, dude. Also, Joe, I believe, Joseph, FlowJoe, made a episode, like, he animated an episode of the Ponders, too, which is cool. Jerry Ponder is definitely my favorite Jerry, too, followed closely by Jerry Trainer, Jerry Smith, and Jerry the Mouse. Dang, that's a lot of Jerrys, man. Moving on, I want to talk about one that gets even less attention than Roommates, Filmbudds, and the Ponders. Created by Boris199, it's the Unfazed Saga. It even had a recent style change, which looks cool. He's also been working on a new series that he just released some details on, and Worse Than One was pretty cool too. I found out about his channel when the Worse Than One movie got recommended to a friend of mine, and he told me about it. I then became hooked, as I do with most webtoons I come across, because, once again, special interest and hyperfixation here. The Unfazed Saga follows Boris, aka my favorite, Dennis, Fabian, and a few others, including a robot, which is cool. They team up to try to defeat Dr. Unfazed, as well as appear on a game show that had its own mini-segment on the show, called Within the Unfazed Saga, The Viral Show. It also has a really cool style to it, and I like how the characters are drawn. It doesn't get as much attention as it deserves, and even gets less attention than Roommates, Filmbudds, and the Ponders, as stated before. And it's finished, too. Like, Boris is working on a whole other webtoon now. I really suggest checking it out sometime. It is really cool. Before moving on to the next one, I want to quickly mention Bonus Stage because, albeit a really old one from eons ago, it has had a fairly recent-ish episode come out for the anniversary or something, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, I used to watch Bonus Stage a lot, and still do from time to time, because it's still pretty funny to this day. Moving on to the next one now, Oddball Adventures! Yeah, it might be ending soon, mind you, but I'm not too sure. Like, I've been hearing some stuff that they're gonna stop making episodes online, but I never really looked more into it, so I don't know what's going on. But Oddball Adventures follows Caleb, aka my favorite, David, Colin, and Anna, who live in Georgetown, with the mayor being, you guessed it, Town. Just kidding, it's George. The style has definitely gotten better over the years, and it's cool to look back at the Oddfather episode compared to the Hotel Hell episode in terms of animation-wise. And I'm pretty sure that Colin helped work on Eddsworld from time to time, because when chatting with a friend about Webtoons once, they brought it up, and I was like, huh, neat. There was also a time that one of my other friends tried to convince me that Caleb was also autistic because of his personality, and how the others would call him Buddy from time to time, and the fact that he had Pac-Man on his shirt and wore a red tie and whatnot. But, I had to explain to him that that's not really how that worked, And, it was at least a cool fan theory. But hey, that's just a theory. A friend's theory. It is definitely cool to have friends that share the same interests as you, such as Webtoons, though. As, it means that you can discuss them and create your own theories or alternate universe stuff about them together. Even my good old pal Lord Flim, aka Albert, has a webtoon of his own that may or may not have ended after only one episode. I mean, he has the voice lines for the second episode. It's just if he has the time and motivation to actually get it done. But before this video goes on any longer, I'll leave it there. There are a few others I could have mentioned, such as, the obvious Hell of a Boss, Camp Camp, Control-Alt-Delete, and whatnot, but I'll just leave it here for now. This video is long enough as it is. Are there any webtoons that I didn't mention? Let me know and I'll check them out if I haven't already. I always love finding new webtoons to obsess over. I might even add it in a part 2 if I ever make one. But for now, that's it for me. Cue the outro. Bye.